This was the scene earlier this afternoon there in southern Illinois. I want to read from some of the statement put out by the Illinois State Police after now we know 6 people have died in this huge car pileup after this dust storm shut down portions of I-55. This is what we know. ISP, that's the Illinois State Police troops, 6 and 8 responded to the area for multiple crashes with injuries. I-55 is currently shut down in both directions, and they say visibility in the area is reported to be low due to blowing dust. Tragic set of circumstances. They also went on to say traffic is urged to seek alternate routes. Take a look at some of the crash itself, and you can see there at least one of these major tankers caught on fire. So this is what we know. Approximately 30 commercial motor vehicles and 40 to 60 passenger cars were involved. This includes 2 truck tractor semi-trailers that caught fire as a result of the crashes. At this time, ISP says they have reports of more than 30 people being transported to the hospital and multiple fatalities. Injuries range from minor to life-threatening, and the ages range from 2 years old to 80 years old. Of those 30 who are injured in all of this. Take a look at some more of the video we have. Reports also are telling us, according to the ISP, that there are 6 fatalities, all occurring in the northbound lanes, but they told us they do not have any additional information on those individuals at this time. So they say the cause of the crash is due to excessive winds blowing dirt from farm fields across the highway, leading to zero visibility. Look at that. Well, earlier this afternoon, I want to play out for you a conversation I had with a representative from the National Weather Service out of St. Louis, which is near this, who was reporting on this. And we talked about the weather phenomenon, about how this could come to be so quickly. Right now, let's play out that conversation for you here on Live Now. Southern Illinois kicked up dangerous clouds of blinding dust off farm fields just this afternoon, causing numerous crashes that killed at least 6 people on I-55 there in southern Illinois, also left about 30 people injured. But let's talk about this rare weather phenomenon right now with the National Weather Service meteorologist out of St. Louis, Brad Charboneau. He joins us. Brad, thanks for being with us. You've been following this very bizarre yet tragic weather event today. My first question, though, to you was, what was this? How do we describe it? What was it called?
Well, there were a few different factors that went into this. Really, the first is that we just had really persistent gusty northwest winds, kind of emanating from a really large area of low pressure that's actually centered as far away as southeastern Canada. But has a really, really large wind field that extends well into the Midwest and the Great Lakes. And that has been persistent really all day long since early this morning even. And now, we had the wind, and also the other factor is that there's just a lot of open and loose dirt in the area due to there being a lot of agricultural fields, some of which have likely been recently plowed, and also we haven't really had a lot of rain in the area in the last week or so. So all those things combined kind of led to what we saw today.
Yeah. So, Brent, I want to get your thoughts, though, because it is very rare. I want to ask you how rare it is, because like I said offline, livenow-from-fox has a headquarters in Phoenix, Arizona. This somewhat happens in the summer with these dust storms that come on quite suddenly, and visibility is reduced so much. And that seems to be like what happened here.
Yeah, it is very rare in this part of the country, just because we typically have a lot of vegetation around that holds that dirt in place. There's only a few specific situations where all of these things come together at once. That it just doesn't happen as often as it does in other parts of the country where there's a lot, maybe a little bit less vegetation, or you maybe more often has the weather conditions that you need to make this happen. But it is much more rare here than it is in other parts of the country.
Yeah, I also want to ask, I mean, being at the National Weather Service, one of their branches, St. Louis, that's a big hub. Did you guys have this on your radar? Did you see this coming? Could you have alerted, residents there on I-55, drivers on I-55 ahead of time? How much earlier did you know about this?
Well, we did. We knew that that today was going to be windy. Really through really through the day, and it was similar to similar winds as what we saw yesterday, and maybe similar tomorrow as well. But as far as that second component, the loose dirt and the dust, it's hard to really say, that to predict, how available that dust, for us is going to be. And these wind speeds that we saw today are not even really enough to, typically cause much damage. It's just we just had all of those other factors in place that kind of turned this from an ordinary just kind of windy day to something much more dangerous and tragic.
Yeah, because usually during monsoon season out here in Phoenix, we get an alert on our phone from the relevant authorities saying, be careful. If you're going to drive, there's going to be reduced visibility. How much was the visibility for drivers reduced, would you say?
Well, it's hard to say exactly for sure, but we did see, because we need to have a weather station right there to be totally sure what the visibility was like. But we did see some reports that the visibility was reduced to almost zero. So meaning you could, if it's that low, you have difficulty seeing really just even right in front of your vehicle when you're driving, which is fairly common in blowing dust. That dust can really severely impact the visibility. So it's not terribly surprising that, that blowing dust could reduce those visibilities that low. It just, typically doesn't happen very often in this part of the country.
Yeah. And Brad, just lastly, I mean, what took you by surprise with this weather event? I know you said it was rare, but did it linger? Did it last long, maybe?
It did linger, really most of the day, and the winds did pick up pretty early in the morning, and really persisted all through the day. Again, we were expecting the winds to be pretty strong today. I think, the part that is a little more difficult to predict is just how that's going to affect the surrounding soil conditions. That second factor that kind of turned this from just an ordinary windy day to something that's a lot more dangerous.
Yeah, just lastly too, should we be on the lookout for more of these, you think, or was this maybe one-off event phenomenon?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, we are expecting some similarly strong winds tomorrow. The forecast currently, calls for winds that are just maybe slightly lower than they were yesterday, but not far off. And so, if you're planning on driving, around the same areas tomorrow afternoon, you definitely want to be careful. It wouldn't be out of the question to see more blowing dust tomorrow. I can't say for sure whether or not it will be quite as severe as it was today, but we do have more wind in the forecast tomorrow, so you'll definitely want to be, cautious if you plan to be out on the road.
All right, Brad Charboneau with the National Weather Service in St. Louis. We thank you for your time and your insight. We'll talk again.
Thank you.